Happy Samhain, everybody. Ia Samhain, the eve of Samhain, which is November. If you have an Irish calendar, it'll say November at the top. No, Samhain at the top. And this is the eve, Halloween. Happy Halloween. It's very awesome to get to do a little final video of the night for you all. I wanted to live stream a ghost story, but YouTube wouldn't let me live stream. I'll have to figure out that why. October 31st, 1996, 26 years ago on this very night. So my coven and I, on this Halloween, went off into the forest to do our ritual. We had planned to do a fairy magic, fairy Wicca adaptation of a Franz Bardon technique, because, of course, I was deep into Franz Bardon during these years from about 94 to 98, going through his books very like the way he says you should. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, except for the fact that we tried this technique to create a fairy familiar for our coven. And it worked with caveats. And I'll let you know what those are at the end as we consider what I learned from that experience. So, are you ready? The Samhain night, we decided to meet up at one of our members' house in North Vancouver, and we trudged off into the forest looking for a spot to do our ritual. We just grabbed all our things and candles and such and went off into the mountains of North Vancouver, which, if you know anything about British Columbia, once you walk into those mountains, there's nothing until you get to the North Pole, essentially. I mean, if you hit the coasts or go more inland, sure, you'll find places. But if you just went straight, as if you could walk straight, you would find nothing until you got to the other side of the planet, or something like that. So definitely out in the middle of, well, heading towards the nowhere and up the mountain. And it was really hard to find a place. We basically trudged through undergrowth and over little streams and rivers for a while, and it was cold and wet and started to rain, of course. But, you know, we had our plan and we had to find the right spot. And we just went until we found it. October 31st, 1996, Samhain night, a star-filled sky. Yes, it was star-filled indeed. It did rain a bit at some point, but it was also starry. That happens a lot when you're up on the side of a mountain. The house that my friend lived at and still lives at was next to the OTO house, Oasis, that I lived in when I was 10 years old. And so we were already high up on the mountains, very much away from, you know, on the edge of the wild. And so as we walked, we were even further into true wilderness. And yes, you can run into bears and stuff like that, but it's very rare, of course. Hear the fireworks, hey? The bank of the soul stream we met, David F., Dedanis Zanari, and I. Spirits gathered all around us. I could see their being, transparent, visible. The feeling, however, was not so much with me, not as it used to be. We did indeed find a spot near a stream, and we began our ceremony. And you could see a lot of, well, it's exactly as I said. I think it's very clear. What was interesting is the suffering we went through to go get the ritual done. It was very cold. By the end, we were basically pouring wax on our hands, wax from the candle on our hands, because when it hit our hands, normally it burns, but it actually just felt great. It just warmed our hands, and there was no burns the next day whatsoever. When no one had any burns, it was that cold on our skins. So maybe dress warmer is a good thing to do. David F. was one of the Coven members, and the other name is the magical name of the other Coven member, Daniel, and I. Our circle was so strong, it was hard to see beyond it. The trees beyond were covered by a mist of energy. We dedicated ourselves to each other and the occult circle, and to the way of the occultist and mystic. This was one of our last operations until I got back from Europe after a student exchange. So we put a lot of heart and soul into it. and dedicated ourselves to, of course, doing work together. Actually, I remember before we left the house to go into the woods, I said, how about I perform an LBRP for us? And they had never seen me do that before. We had never done one before. And this was, yeah. So they actually started laughing. They were laughing because of the volume of the vibration, and I think they were shocked. The first time I heard vibration done that loudly, I also sort of laughed out of nervous shock, as many I think do. So yes, we dedicated to ourselves to our paths, and as I continued more seriously into mine, and they slowly fell away from doing this kind of stuff generally. 3. We created a Faery to guard our coven and act as messenger between us. He gave me the name Eth. Or maybe it was nothing. This Faery has no legs, but is formed by energy flowing from the earth. He holds a flaming sword, and he holds the book of our circle in his left hand, of course. He has horns to symbolize his clairvoyant sight and wings so that he may travel as fast as light. So we were using Bardon's technique for creating a elementary. I think he says he discriminates between elementals and elementaries. One is already in existence, and one is one you create. And we were doing the one that you create. And so, holding our hands close together after we'd cast our circle and done our initial recitations and celebrations and invocations to the spirits, we created it between our hands in the circle with an image that we'd agreed on in creating this thing. And it definitely felt like we were giving birth to something in a way. It's if you try that technique out ever from Bardon, you'll see what I mean. But it didn't really last is the problem. That's what went on. It was really interesting to see out there in the woods how many more sort of incorporeal forms there seemed to be around us. But at this point, we were very good at creating our circle. That's the one thing a coven should get good at. Any group of musicians is forming that circle and getting a strong protective sphere around you. And so we did get good at that over the course of our time in the coven, especially after the disaster of Midsummer with the attempted self-initiation rite that I've talked about in other diary entries. And what happened in the long run? Well, I have some insights to share with you about that. But overall, this was a really beautiful ceremony for me, at least, for all of us, I think, because, Samhain is a beautiful time and magical time. If you haven't felt the energy all day, it's just remarkably different. Me and my group, we did our ritual last night or on Zoom, of course, and it was good. But, if you do these things on Samhain itself, it's off the charts usually. So what are the insights from this? Scout the loci first, the location. Scout your locations first. Don't just go wandering off in the woods to find them spontaneously, though it was very cool to try that out. But we ended up, I wish I could paint a picture. I mean, it was basically foraging our way to a stream through the undergrowth. So if you can scout in advance, that's good. But we didn't do that. And it was a journey. And that journey became a kind of, additional memory. Bardon's technique. You can check it out. The thing is, I think to make that kind of artificial spirit or elementary work, you can't just first of all, the other two guys forgot to feed energy into it and work with it every day right away. They didn't do that at all. Like next week I was like, so how was the workings each day? And they were like, yeah, we didn't do them. I was like, okay. So it was just me. And now with what I know, that's not enough. You need to have everyone doing work 3 times a day at least if you want to make something like that actually fly. Regular upkeep. That's the point. Regular upkeep. You need to put in effort into those things all the time. So it's much easier to get an actual spirit that already exists. That's why I think this whole process was ill-advised ultimately. Though, when you're 15, you do what you do. So we did what we did, and we had a great Halloween, a great Samhain, and I hope you have as well today and tonight. So many blessings, and I think that's all the wisdom I have to share from that. I think so. Let me think. Yes, I think that's it. Well, let us welcome the unseelie court and say farewell to the seelie court until Beltane. Bye.